Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the closing bell here at MarketStream.live. I'm Joe Cusick from the Cusick Group, securities offered by MoneyBlock. This is where we're going to give you the wrap-up of the day, and we're also going to look at some after-hours action that should be on your radar screen. Well, since the midday report where we talked about strategy now, the market really hasn't changed as far as the mixed affair we saw then. Basically, we see a lot of institutions and traders and investors alike. They're adjusting their positions based on now what we're seeing is some of the early policy statements that are coming out from the Donald Trump presidency camp. Dow Jones Industrial actually touched its new and notched an all-time high. It was up about 1.2%, and we saw the S&P finish the day up about 0.2%, and the NASDAQ, it finished in the red, down 0.8%, and really, we hadn't seen much change from what we saw at the midday. We're seeing, though, that the indices did see some divergence, right, as expectations started to change. Specifically, we saw some discussion that Trump is going to wants to change the Dodd-Frank rule. In other words, reduce regulations. We also are starting to hear that he wants to lower personal and corporate income taxes. The fiscal stimulus is going to be coming through now. What is going to be an enormous infrastructure project. What does this all mean? This means that areas like financials, industrials, and healthcare, they could be enormous benefactors with these kinds of moves and policy changes. As a matter of fact, looking at financials, they finished the day up 3.7%. The industrials finished up 2.1%, and healthcare finished up 1.2%. What, on the flip side, is definitely under some pressure are going to be consumer staples, which was a little bit odd because you saw that consumer discretionaries were also doing pretty well. But consumer staples are under pressure. That could be more of an inflation type of trade where people are concerned about that, so consumer staples could come under pressure with higher prices on the forefront. They were down 2.8%, that sector. Utilities, that safe haven trade, down 2.5%. And telecom services, down about 2.3%. Now, the one thing that I'm going to suggest is this doesn't mean that because you're starting to see this potential rotation in sectors that you jump out and you start getting in and out of these sectors if you are positioned as such. You need to watch this. Put these on your radar screen. Start watching these actions as the policy statements, the people that are going to be running these different departments, in other words, what his cabinet's going to look like as far as President-elect Trump, and so on and so forth. It's going to be very interesting how this is going to play out. There's a lot of movement right now, but at the end of the day, we're just going to need to keep an eye on this. We're going to have to trade small at this juncture and keep our emotions in check. As a matter of fact, talking about keeping your emotions in check, we in Tech Talk at 3:30 Eastern Time had talked about a variety of different stocks that are reporting earnings. And they've reported, I haven't had an opportunity to look at some of the reports. I have some general headlines that I have seen, but some of the names that we were talking about in Tech Talk at 3:30 were Nordstrom's. Nordstrom actually popped about 5% after hours, and we're seeing it now trading up in the $59 level. It had closed right around that $56 level. We saw that the options were pricing in the potential for that stock to move about $5 into the event. We're seeing that it's moving about $3 after hours on what I believe is they beat top-line estimates. Acacia Communications, that moved very quickly after its earnings announcement. It moved to the downside. It was already down a couple bucks, and now it moved down about 10% to about the $65 level, which was right where they were pricing in the potential for that stock to move to the downside. As a matter of fact, it had a $12 range, either to the upside or downside. It closed at right around 71.68. So the stock's down 10% right now after hours. Haven't had an opportunity to pick through the earnings there. NVIDIA, looked at that one in Tech Talk. NVIDIA is now moving to the upside about 9% off its closing price, trading near its fresh all-time highs at $74. Pretty big move there. As a matter of fact, when we looked at NVIDIA, we saw that they were pricing in the potential for roughly around a $5 to almost $6 move. It happens to be moving to the upside right now at almost an all-time high after hours. We'll keep an eye on that one going into tomorrow. The last two that I want to talk about, Michael Kors, we actually discussed. After the earnings announcement, stock moved down about 5%. After hours, trading around that $49 level as I look at it, but it's thin right now as far as trade, so you have to watch this price action. The options were pricing in a pretty decent range for Michael Kors. As a matter of fact, and you can go back and you can actually review what we discussed, but in Kors, they were pricing in the potential for the stock to move around $4.52. Stock was trading roughly around $51 at the time. It's trading right now $49, so it's moving almost half of what it was estimating as potential range going into the earnings announcement. And then finally, Walt Disney. Walt Disney dipped down initially after the announcement of their earnings around 4%. Keeping an eye on that one. Looks like they missed on earnings expectations. I think it was 6 cents less. But again, I have to drill down on that. But as I said, we talked about this in Tech Talk right before the closing bell. Go back and watch that tonight, and you can get some context in all these earnings moves and so much more from the technical analysis view that we did. So the markets, a little bit mixed. We're going to watch as the policy statements start to flesh themselves out from the Trump camp, as well as maybe some potential candidates that are going to come in for his cabinet. It's going to get volatile at the bare minimum, so trade small. Make sure you're keeping your powder dry, and stay tuned to MarketStream.live. Have a great evening. We'll see you tomorrow morning on the taking a look at the overnights at 8:30 Eastern time. So we'll see you then.